Joining me now is Senator Josh Hawley. We'll hit this and also hit what I was saying in the angle, which was what's going on with the robed resistance. Senator Hawley, I'll just read part of this piece in The Atlantic. The world found out shortly before 2 p.m. Eastern on March 15th that the U.S. was bombing Houthi targets across Yemen. And this reporter, Jeffrey Goldberg, writes that I, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason I knew this is that, again, this is the article in The Atlantic, that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, had texted me the war plan at 11:44 a.m. The plan included precise information about weapons packages, targets, and timing. Senator, your reaction to this?
Well, I thought what the Secretary of Defense just said, Laura, was an outstanding statement. And listen, I mean, we don't know how much of this is accurate or not, but it looks like even if everything the Atlantic reported is true, it's the president's advisors discussing among themselves options they might recommend to the president. And nobody can deny the success of what the president is doing here, which is what Pete Hegseth just underscored. And this is what the leftist media is reduced to. They can't argue with the policies, which the American people support. They can't argue with this new demonstration of American strength that is keeping Americans safe at home and abroad. And so now we're griping about who's on a text message and who's not. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, it's about, you know, the left all afternoon was going crazy about this is another example of compromising national security with classified information, of course, forgetting Joe Biden's holding documents near his Corvette and being given special treatment and how we could go recover those. So none of that's mentioned. But, you know, this is an extension of what we were talking about in the angle that I did not quite finish. But the resistance that Trump is coming up against, Senator, in the courts, we went through 3 cases today, various cases. One a Maryland district judge, one a D.C. district judge, and another Democrat appointee on the transgender issue in the military. But this is a well-funded effort, and it's met with some success on key administration policies. So my question to you is, I understand you have legislation in the works that could address some of the issues that are plaguing this administration coming out of what are activist courts and an activist agenda.
Absolutely. The key thing to do here, Laura, is to end the ability of these district courts to abuse their judicial authority by issuing these so-called nationwide injunctions. Laura, I don't think they have that authority, properly speaking, under the Constitution, Article 3. What they're doing is they're purporting, these judges, they're purporting to go out and to bind parties and individuals who aren't before them. They're purporting to bind people who aren't in their district. We only have one Supreme Court that can bind the whole nation. District courts aren't supposed to be able to do it, and yet President Trump has been subject already to 15 separate so-called nationwide injunctions. In his first term, Laura, there were 64. We have never seen anything like this in American history. It's incredibly abusive, and Congress ought to end it. And we can end it by just saying no nationwide injunctions by these district courts.
There's another thing that could be done. A former Supreme Court clerk, one of the smartest lawyers I know, suggested it, and I know there are different iterations of this. But one thing that could be done, short of what you just said, is limiting challenges to the president's authority to a rotating panel of 3 district court judges. So there's no forum shopping, and that any stay or any hold on the president's action would be nullified or would be stayed, excuse me, until the Supreme Court gets to hear the case, and that it's ultimately decided by the court. That way they can't delay the Trump agenda. But all that is in Congress's prerogative. You all could do so many different things to end this, because the Constitution only references the establishment of the Supreme Court, leaves all the inferior courts' work up to Congress to determine.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Constitution expressly gives to Congress the ability to create the lower courts. Let's remember, the lower courts are not in the Constitution per se.
Yeah, or not.
Congress has the ability to create them. Yeah, exactly. Not. And so Congress has the ability to create them, to govern them. And this is why I think we ought to just eliminate the power of I don't believe that under Article 3, these district courts even have the power to issue these nationwide injunctions. I think it's abusive. And that's why we ought to just say they can't do it. Congress has the authority to govern them. We should say they do not have the power to issue injunctions nationwide, period. End of story. No more abuse.
What's the chances that your legislation or others like it will move forward? What are the chances? It's critical for the future of this country.
Well, here's what I noticed, Laura. I noticed that the Democrats just a few months ago, before the election of Donald Trump, were complaining bitterly about Republican-appointed judges issuing nationwide injunctions. So I just say this, let's have a vote. They said they wanted to eliminate nationwide injunctions 6 or 7 months ago. Okay, let's do it. Let's now have them give them the chance to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and let's vote on it. I think that this ought to be a no-brainer. Let's stop the abuse. Here's the thing. We've seen this before. You put judges into office. You think they're going to be good. They drift left. Let's take away the power of these judges to issue injunctions like this at all.
Yeah, it can't be all talk, no action. It's got to be action. Senator, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.